Hey, we are live. Welcome everyone to Shifting Lanes Garage, aka Shifting Lanes Live. My name's Chad. With me, as always, is the Gregson. What's up,
This
Greg?
guy.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I am tired, as always.
Eh,
Man, this last month has been nuts. But everything's good. Can't complain. In the garage, talking to you guys. Got the car behind me. Got my sweet Shifting Lanes license plate from Carlisle sitting right above my head over here. And everything is good. How about yourself, good sir?
Doing great. Enjoying this new thing. I don't know if you've heard about it. They're called weekends.
Yes, they're rad. I highly recommend them.
Haven't had too many of those in the last 15 years. My computer is
Literally
freaking
ever.
out. My monitor, so it's mildly infuriating at the moment, but we shall persevere. So a
Yes,
couple pretty
that's
cool
right.
things we want to talk about tonight. Chat will
Yes.
guide us as they usually do.
Yes.
Should be.
So if you want to talk to us and pitch topics to talk about for cars, please stay. Please comment on Facebook, on Twitch, and on YouTube. And we're going to talk to you guys. That's the whole reason we do this is, talking to you in this format. So please hang out, please enjoy, and talk to us about cars. We got some interesting topics to talk to you about tonight. One of which is there's a NASCAR at Le Mans, which is weird and awesome.
There has been NASCARs at Le Mans or Le Mans. There's a precedence for this. It was
Yes,
back in the late
but
70s. They had two.
sure, but that's 50 years ago. So anyone who's over the age of 45 probably doesn't remember that.
Under the age of 45.
Sorry, yes, under the age of
No.
45. This is how tired I am.
Nicholas, talk as much as you want. We encourage
Yes,
it.
we like comments.
Um,
Give us the comments.
Andrew, what's up? You're tired? Join the club.
Yes.
We are.
Welcome to the Tired Club.
Yeah. Welcome to adulthood. Don't recommend. Stay a kid forever.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. 100%. Stay here.
So
Cherish it.
So we have two pretty awesome topics. Number one is the NASCAR at Le Mans, which we have audio of, which is pretty awesome, and also video for scale, which is also hilarious. Doug, one of our one of the OGs, the supporter of supporters, the host with the most, also
That's right.
provided us a topic of cars that are fast that from unexpected places. He used things like Buick and the Grand National, stuff like that. So we're definitely gonna get to that at some point tonight.
Yes.
Let's see here. Greg, apparently there was a YouTube video you were supposed to watch as homework.
Yes, Andrew, Andrew had sent me a YouTube video about the Volvo S80. I have not had a chance to watch that yet, Andrew. Sorry, it's been a little nutty here the last week. Now my eye is freaking out, much like Chad's monitor, so that's great. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. What's that?
Every time you blink, my monitor turns off. Anywho,
Yes, I have not had a chance to look at that video yet, Andrew. I will take a look at it this week at some point. If for those that don't know anything about this context, Andrew in our chat right now, Andrew Campbell had sent me a note about the Volvo S80, which is a car that he owns, and I own Volvos too, as you can see by the Volvo behind me and the giant prancing moose on the wall. And his car is a Volvo S80, which is a pretty interesting car. It was basically Volvo's luxury sedan, and still kind of is, except it's the S90 now. The S80 was for two generations, and it was a video about sort of like the genesis of the S80 and talking to, I believe, one of the lead designers or engineers. So that's a cool video. I definitely want to watch that, and I have not had a chance to, but it's very cool because most of the stuff you watch online from the Volvo like OEM stuff, it's a bit cut and dry and a bit boring. But if you really listen to it, there are really interesting nuggets in there, which is why I really loved interviewing the guy that designed or was one of the lead designers for the new V60 at the New York Auto Show. I believe his name was I forget his first name, but his last name was Mayer. I want to say is like, it was
John Mayer.
John, yeah, it was John
legend.
Mayer, but his first initial is T, so he went by T John, so T John Mayer. I don't know why he did that. Maybe as a differentiation between music legend John Mayer and himself, as Chad mentioned. But it was cool to talk to him to get an insight of like how cars are designed, where they really look to enhance the design from a previous generation, why they did this, why they did that. And I think that's the same sort of place where Andrew's S80 video is going. So I will watch that. It'll be very cool. And then we'll talk about it on a future stream.
Fantastic. Doug goes, my star count dropped by quite a bit. Evil Facebook. Yeah, I think it's set to 90 days.
I think it's a rolling 28 or rolling 30 days. So sort of like how monetization works on all platforms is like you get a rolling 28 of like how you've been doing. And it's the same thing with the star counts up in the top right or top left there, depending on how you're looking at it.
There is a way to make that bigger again, just saying.
Yes. Chad's like, please pay for my body kit. Please pay for my body kit.
At this point, I just want to get the carbon fibre on it.
Yeah, sure. You do have carbon fiber sitting there.
Nicholas goes, I was up all night, just woke up from a nap. Welcome.
That must be nice.
Justin says good evening and is screaming internally for the topic today. Mark, yo, what's up?
What's up, Mark?
Doug says some early S80 prototypes were awesome. I forget what they called it. Probably something Swedish. Mark Anthony, S90 to S80 back to S90. Volvo things.
Yeah, they had like the S90 and the V90 for like a year here in the late 90s. Then it went to the S80 and they dropped the V90. The largest wagon that was here for a while was the V70. And then they went back to the V60, V90 platform or nomenclature when the newer Volvos back in like 2016 with the XC90, all the newer ones kind of came out. That's when that sort of nomenclature kind of went back and forth, back to that way. Chad, you're looking frustrated again.
This problem's gonna bug the ever living hell out of me.
Oh no!
Because like I get, and I'm like halfway through reading like something from chat or something like that, and blank.
Oh no!
It was fine. I updated Skype, and now it's starting to freak out the one monitor. So,
have you tried plugging it in, unplugging it, plugging it back in? Have you tried hitting it on the side? Have you blown in the cartridge?
I have no
Nintendo
idea.
style.
The more I think about it, the more like you're just gonna see this. As I knock my monitor into next week, it's mildly. This isn't. It's on the monitor I don't use as much. Like the other monitor is the one I do like any sort of like gaming, any sort of video editing on, any of that sort of stuff. So like, I have no idea what's going on. I think it's a Skype thing because it doesn't do it when Skype's not active. But I have to have Skype active so you lovely human beings can hear, see, bask in the glory that is Gregson. So. One
of these days we'll get a place where we can both be in the same room at the same time.
One of these days we'll have a studio. I nominate the basement. I
also nominate my basement. I also nominate your wallet to pay for that.
It's easy. We have all the gear we need.
I'm very much okay with that. Let's just sell your carbon fiber parts and build a studio down there. Done.
I don't even need a studio. We just need space. It's all that space and camera, which we have.
True. Oh, Nicholas, thank you so much for the 500 stars, my guy. Legend, as usual. Thank you so much. That is definitely getting it started with a BAMG.
BAMG.
I only say that, and I'm not making fun, is because I literally typo with every other word I type, and I'm a writer, so thank God for editors, or I would be out of a job.
Thank God for Grammarly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Doug can't send stars on Facebook anymore. That's unfortunate. Weird.
That is very odd. We also accept money orders and or wire. Also, we don't do either of those things, so please don't.
That was the wiring service from back in the day that you could do at like any supermarket. Like
Western Union.
Western Union.
Yeah. What's it now? Like MoneyGram, or actually, you can send money pretty much any way you want now. Is PayPal, Venmo, Zelle.
It's like, and we like to thank
MoneyGram,
Doug for his
Cash
recent
App.
money grab.
Oh man.
And-
All right, let's dive into the car stuff.
Yes.
Because cars are good, and I want to talk about them.
So,
What do you want to do first? Do you want to do the topic or the NASCAR thing? Both are fun.
Yes. Just mail them car parts. Mark has got the right idea.
Yes.
I accept mine in genuine, professional grade carbon fiber.
Yes, I also accept my car parts in the form of a car assembled and someone buys it for me. That would be great.
Let's start with, so as a lot of you guys may or may not know, the 24 Hours of Le Mans is this month. Arguably, it is one of the 3 biggest motorsport events globally. It's celebrating its 100th year. Now, it hasn't had 100 races. Pesky World Wars got in the way of that. But this is 1923 was the first running of Le Mans. And
Yes.
so, like, first of all, I love sports car racing. That's my favorite form of motorsport. No other form of motorsport offers more variety in types of vehicles, types of engines, types of technology, all of that sort of stuff. Like, you could sit here and see a prototype with a massive V8 or a turbocharged 6-cylinder, big hybrid, small hybrid, like the whole lot. So it's, and then that's not even talking about like the GT cars where like you have a Porsche flat 6 competing with a Corvette 5.5 liter flat plane V8 with a Ferrari turbo, like, and down the line. Like, the variety is so, you don't get anything like it anywhere else in motorsport, right? Like, even Formula One, where there's different approaches to solve the same problem. All the engines, the engine design, the base design of the engine is the V angle has to be a certain size and the bore has to be a certain size. So everybody ends up with roughly the same sort of design on their engine. Now, it's drastically different from Mercedes to Honda to Ferrari and down the board. But the engines, it's not like you have a flat 6 going up against a V8, going up against a turbo 6, going up against like all these different variety that you get in sports car. And one of the things Le Mans does really, really well is they lean into it. They lean into newer technologies, and when they've done things like the first hybrids were Garage 56. They did a Garage 56 entry, which had you could set it up so this guy who was a avid racer, who was I think he had basically all 4 of his limbs like amputated due to some reason. I forget the exact specifics, but like he got in and drove a car with teammates.
That's
and stuff
cool.
like that. There's been, talk of a hydrogen fuel cell car for years now, even though it hasn't really come to fruition. So they decided, with new and emerging technologies and giving a showcase for other forms of motorsport and all this other stuff, to throw a NASCAR in there.
So it sounds like they're going backwards.
Right, but the thing of it is that it brings a different form of motorsport and showcases a different type of motorsport than what sports car racing is, and the variety, and shows that, yes, once again, there are multiple ways to skin the particular cat that is go around the Sarth as fast as humanly possible. So
That's right. And with what Chad said about one of the big 3, if you guys don't know, the big 3, which is called like the racing triple crown, essentially, is Le Mans, Monaco, and the Indy 500. Those are the big three. And a lot of people might be saying Indy 500. Nobody watches that. they do. It is basically the Super Bowl of open wheel racing. Always has been, and likely always will be. Monaco is considered in Formula One to be the Super Bowl, just because it's like it's the pomp and circumstance is all like crazy. It's blown out of the water, but there's a lot to be said about Monaco not being a good track for modern F1 cars, and that's pretty much kind of been the case since like the late '90s.
It's a terrible track for modern Formula One cars.
It still is considered to be the crown jewel of the Formula One calendar by almost everybody that's not a pure racing purist, snotty, snivelly nosed person like Chad and I. So it's those are the big three, and the Indy 500 is probably the one that's the most underrated, even though a lot of people watch it. It's always incredibly exciting. Le Mans sometimes has runaway victories. Monaco's a parade. I'd say out of the three, the most exciting one is probably Indy, but just a personal opinion. Chad, probably, I would imagine you would say Le Mans is the most exciting out of those three, just because, an oval is an oval to a lot of people too. And I know your favorite racing is sports car racing anyway, so you'd probably say Le Mans for that answer.
Probably not.
Interesting.
No, as far as excitement, let me put it to you this way. The reason why there is a lot of excitement surrounding this year's Le Mans is not only NASCAR, but that's not the only thing. There's, since Audi kind of came into the game in the late 90s, they just blew the doors off of everyone. And then there was a bit where Toyota, Audi, and Porsche kind of coexisted, and actually the racing was pretty good again. But those cars, let me put it to you this way. In the peak LMP1 era, those cars were, it cost as much as to make one of those as it did a Formula One car, and you only raced 10 races. Mm-hmm. So the finances of it were never going to be sustainable. And then it became a Toyota parade when Dieselgate just took out Audi and Porsche. But this year, you have Ferrari, you have Toyota, you have Peugeot, you have Cadillac, you have Porsche, you have Glickenhaus, there are, I had this queued up, but there are, literally in the top class, 16 cars in the top class, when in years past that number has been in single digits. So
yeah, that's impressive. That's a lot of cars.
The fight for overall victories is back to being something that there's so many different manufacturers involved and stuff like that. So it's crazy exciting for this race. And if you aren't excited already, LeBron James is going to be the official starter for reasons known only to the French. But
that's all right. LeBron will bring the eyeballs.
Yes. I hope a car runs him over. At any rate, Nicholas's favorite form of motorsport is rally, but sports car racing is a close second. ARA Rallycross, Red Bull Rallycross, that sort of stuff. Rally is another one that's really, really, really cool just because of the sheer enormity of the testicles required to drive in rally.
Yes. Rally is a different breed of driving. And you hear that a lot in racing. And the best example of this I can tell you is back in the early 2000s when Jeff Gordon and Juan Montoya did a swap at Indy when Jeff Gordon got in an F1 car and Montoya got in a NASCAR. And Montoya would later go on to drive in a NASCAR for many years. But you'd think, oh, Jeff Gordon, he's a very talented NASCAR driver and yada, yada, yada. he got into an F1 car and got up to speed, not at F1 speeds, but got up to like speed in an F1 car.
Speed enough that would have put
Zero
him in the middle
testing.
of the pack for qualifying for the previous year's Indy
Right.
F1 race.
Yeah. Yeah. Like legit speed. Like he got into the cockpit with no formal training in F1, with no formal testing, and basically got up to speed with the car, and like Chad said, to be a mid-pack qualifier for the year prior. Like, that is insanely impressive. That same skill set does not translate to rally. Rally is a very different type of driving than almost every other form of racing. And that includes rallycross too. It's another one of those sort of things, but specifically rally through like the woods, the jumps, the craziness. Like, it is, having been to one, it is bananas. Like what these guys actually do.
Here's the thing: the thing that separates stage rally from anything else really in motorsport, with the exception of like your desert racing and your, well, I guess you could throw the Paris Dakar in there.
Yeah.
But those are kind of the same version of a similar version of the same sport, really. I mean, a trophy truck is
Sure.
a trophy truck, but it's a rally car, right? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Is the fact that the track is unknown. You don't get
Right.
the practice on, or you do get some form of practice on it, but you're relying on a
Yeah.
guy sitting here giving you pace notes.
Yes. It's not the same.
So you're fully committed on, and it's just what the dude, it'd be like Greg giving me directions, right? And I'm flat out through narrow dirt, and like over there is instant death over a cliff. Like, that's the insanity that is rally. But I will say this: as insane as rally is, the variety of car isn't the same. It's very similar.
Right.
The engine rules are set. So you have to have a certain engine of a certain displacement with a certain size turbocharger and a certain bore and stroke on the engine. So like, it limits, say someone wants to come in and be like, hey, we're going to put a V4 in it or something. Like, you know what I mean? Or like, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, Toyota found out that having 3 cylinders, having a bigger cylinder or displacement per cylinder is actually beneficial for torque or something, right? Like, obviously, usually in motorsport, like, someone tries a great idea and then everybody sort of merges on it, right? So the current regulations in IndyCar said that you could run a 2 or a 4-cylinder engine, but everybody picked a 6-cylinder because of the revs, because you want it to rev faster and things of that nature.
Right.
Oh, what's up, Jessica? Welcome to the stream. Thank you for watching.
Hello, Jessica.
Nick, I just want to be second in stars, creeping on Doug. Thanks, Nicholas, man. Appreciate you.
I'll be right back.
All right, so like that's why for me, it's just the variety in sports car racing, and to a lesser extent, it's one of the few forms of motorsport where the cars on track are closely related to the cars on the street. So, okay, for example, back before Corvette went mid-engine, you saw a C6 or a C7 Corvette. The C7 Corvette and the C7R race car were developed together at GM, and then one went down the road car path and the other went down race car path, because obviously the rule sets for those are different. From a safety perspective, from a performance perspective, from all of that sort of stuff. So that's what makes GT3 racing specifically, so interesting, is that, again, you don't necessarily have, it's starting to become a mid-engine fest. You do still have some cars flying the front engine banner, like Aston Martin, Mercedes, for that example. Still. God damn it, the cat's back. Still flying the front engine, which is awesome to see, because, like, again, it's the variety that makes that style of racing so interesting. Doug goes, "Oh, my MetaPay account is disabled for sending you too many stars while drinking." Well, you need to turn that setting out, or you need to turn that setting off because reasons. But
That's a weird. That's a weird thing to disable because Meta gets a percentage of that. So,
and how do they know you're drunk?
yeah, that's a better question. They are always listening.
Yeah. Yeah. Nick goes, "Fuck yeah, I love GT3. GT3 will go down as one of the best things to happen to motorsport ever."
Yes. And thank you again for the 500 stars, Nicholas. I like that you're just sending them to spite Doug at this point.
For suspicious activities. Apparently, we are suspicious recipients.
Okay.
But, like,
whatever.
So, before we get to the NASCAR, because I do have a pretty awesome video of it.
Yes.
That I had nothing to do with getting. That. I Googleized it. The brief history of GT3. So, like, it used to be GT1, and GT1 was nuts. So that's where, like,
that was with the flipping Porsches and flipping Mercedes.
That's where GT1 got its start, and it slowly trickled down into more, like, they were like, okay, instead of only making 2 road-going variants, we need you to make an actual representative number of these things. And that's where the original Corvette came in. That's where the Vipers came in. That's where the Porsche, the turbo Porsches came in. And, like, the V12 Aston Martins, the V12 Ferraris, like, all of that racing against each other. But, again, as things in motorsport, it just exploded, right?
Right.
So then GT2 was the slightly slower version of that. And that's eventually what became GTLM, which is what they were racing at Le Mans and Le Mans series is globally until last year, until this year, where everything's GT3. GT3 was meant to be the affordable version of GT racing with these cars versus the other two. And as things go, it got a little bit pricey, and enter GT4 now exists. GT2 is making a comeback, but it's not necessarily a performance thing. It's more of a more power, less aids, less aero kind of a thing. So it's more driver focused, which I think could be interesting. But the problem there is that what made GT3 so successful it was affordable enough for, like, Mr. Hedge Fund guy who has a shit ton of money and wants to go racing can be an AM driver in GT3 because it has a lot of driver aids, so they're very easy to drive as race cars go. GT2 is more driver focused, so the AM driver, it's not great for AM drivers. But at any rate, I digress. Doug is your star dealer. Not like Doug is mooning at me. All right, at any rate, so what we're going to do now...
yes. We're gonna
let me just cue this up. Why can't I hear it? Oh, you know what it is? Here we go. They probably heard it and are like, "What are you doing, you dumbass?" Here we go.
So that's me every day. I still can't hear it, but I heard it before, so we're good.
Yeah. Look at the scale. Look at how much bigger it is. Hold on. Pay attention. Look at how big that is, and then that's the prototype behind it. How much smaller it is.
The M6 meat all over again.
Yeah. This is another good example of how enormous it is compared to the same size as the prototypes. Like, imagine. does not sound exactly like a NASCAR, especially
Yeah.
at mid-rev. Take that, Aston.
It's so weird.
But like you see the speed differential between that and the prototypes. You know,
Mm-hmm.
downforce.
No, Nicholas, it looks a little like Sega in some spots, but this is Le Mans over in France.
It is also really cool to see a NASCAR with actual functioning headlights again.
Correct. Instead of just stickers, which is weird.
I hate the sticker.
Always has been.
on the back.
Ugh, I know. Like, to me, this is more of a NASCAR than NASCARs. Like, it's because they're supposed to be like stock cars. Stock cars have got exhaust. So weird. It's so weird. I love it so much.
So
It's awesome. This is great. This is just quite frankly, just seeing a NASCAR or quite frankly any kind of American racing series car going around Le Mans with the prototypes around it. It's just great. It's just great.
I love how they didn't try to like make it a GT car. They just added canards everywhere.
Yeah. They added a spoiler and then just canard scaffolding bits all over the place. That's great. And it's, to be fair, it's quick in the turns too. It's not just a straight line performer, which is obviously what NASCARs are like.
Oh, the prototypes are fighting the draft behind these things. I think it's actually one of the faster cars.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's cool. It's really cool to be able to like see that, and it's pulling away. Like in one of the earlier clips, you can see a prototype kind of got out behind it, and then it like, oh, I need to get back in there. That's great. Yeah.
Yes.
Justin. Yes. Did you want the canards here or there? Yeah. Oh, and we should mention while this video is playing, the team that's racing this car is very impressive. We have former 7-time NASCAR champion Jimmy Johnson. We have former F1 world champion Jenson Button, and I believe a Le Mans winner in Mark, I forget his last name.
Mike Rockenfeller.
Mike Rockenfeller, thank you. So, a former Le Mans winner, a former Formula One world champion, and a 7-time NASCAR champion. Like, that's a pretty impressive field of drivers to do this with. So, I mean, they're not racing against anybody. It's important to know that this car is in a class of its own. There is no class for gussied up NASCAR at Le Mans. It's just in its own sort of thing. There is a class for it, like at Le Mans, because they had to make one. But it's not racing against anyone really, other than can we beat this, that, and the other thing.
But here's the thing. So you would think that it's big and heavy, and that it would be one of the slowest things out there.
Yeah.
It is actually. Let me just pull this back up.
Oh yeah. This is impressive.
And I lost it. Here it is. So it is slower than all of the prototypes slower by about 7 seconds than the slowest LMP2 car, which
And that's like the top end.
that's like the second fastest class, right?
Yes.
However, it is about 2.5 seconds faster, and this testing laps and stuff like here than the fastest GT car, which is a
Yes.
458 Ferrari,
Which is
GTE. Oh, they are doing G. In any rate,
which is insane.
So like,
So put it in terms of when Ford brought the GT back to Le Mans racing, when like with the new Edge GT. What class was that in comparatively?
that would be 2.5 seconds slower.
Yeah, the Ford GT that they brought back to win Le Mans again with would be 2.5 seconds slower per lap, in theory, than this thing. That is very impressive.
Yeah, it's a crazy engineering. They've had a series going on the YouTube about, excuse me,
On the YouTube.
on the one and only YouTube. They had, hey Steve, what's going on from YouTube land?
Steve, welcome in, brother. Good to see you.
So they on the development of this car and how much weight they took out of it. So if you don't understand, the whole ethos of this is it's to showcase that NASCAR isn't just NASCAR anymore. It's not what the big heavy bricks. I mean, they're big, they're a little heavy, but they have full 6-speed sequential gearboxes. They have which is mounted in the rear for better weight buys. They have carbon reinforced plastic body panels, which is effectively carbon fiber, but I think instead of like resin, they use plastic. Is my really woefully understanding of that particular material. Yep. Steve and one other are two YouTubers for the evening. It's got bigger brakes. I think they actually went to carbon ceramic for this race because of the nature of the car and how they'd be changing brake pads every other pit stop if it was the steel stuff.
Yeah.
That not to say that steel brakes were used quite heavily at Le Mans and sports car racing for a long time because
yes.
But so it's kind of to showcase that, hey, you let a NASCAR run free, this is the result, and it's kicking the doors in of some pretty impressive machinery. 911s, Ferraris, Mercedes, Aston Martin. This is the last year of LMGTE, but it's just the AM class. I think next year they go to GT.
Okay.
Just wanted to correct myself. But it's faster than 458, or I'm sorry, 488 Evo, 911 RSR, Aston Martin Vantage, the Corvette, which is depressingly down in the GT standings. It's
crazy.
It's an impressive feat of engineering because just people have NASCAR wrong. It's just they don't get to showcase what they can do like this that frequently.
Right.
But in any way,
a lot of people also just dismiss NASCAR because of the fan base too, which is a shame because yes, the fan base of NASCAR a lot of the time is a bunch of Neanderthals. However, there are other people that actually enjoy racing that think NASCAR is cool and not just a place to go and drink lots of beer on an infield. But NASCAR catches a lot of flack for the fan base. But I mean, it's still a cool racing series, quite frankly. I've sort of given up on NASCAR personally because of the stage racing. I think it's just gimmicky, and NASCAR has tried to become more gimmicky over the years to get fans back, and it kind of worked. I don't think it really worked all that well. But the other thing is, like, you have to understand that these are still serious cars, and everyone saying, "Oh yeah, but they only go in a circle and turn left," is like, you've literally never been in one of these things. just shut the fuck up because you have no idea what you're talking about. As someone who has been in one of these things, even going at 3/4 the power, it is pants browningly insane.
But that's just
how
like saying
fast
all a
these
guy in a
things
top
go.
fuel dragster has to do is just press the
Right.
gas and go in a straight line.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I'd love to see all of these people just commenting and like, yeah, drag racing is just going in a straight line. It's like, yes, but it's basically going in a straight line with a bomb on your back. It is certifiably
I mean,
insane.
faster acceleration than the damn space shuttle.
Correct. So and imagine trying to drive a wooden plank this big down a track because that's how big the front nose of these like top fuel dragsters are. It's insane, and anyone saying that it's just this or that is they're just trying to justify their own like insecurities and insignificance in the world because it is beyond comprehension that these guys can do what they do at the level they can with the machinery they're given. It is immensely impressive on every conceivable level for drag racing, for NASCAR racing, and what have you. So I agree with you, Chad. I think this is a really cool way to sort of say, hey, here's what NASCARs can do when they're just not even on an oval track and when they're given the tools to go onto a road course and show what they can do.
Exactly. What's he got? Steve loves him some redneck racing. Martin Truex Jr. and all the way. I think that's the other thing that kind of
yes,
NASCAR
Jersey
for me. I was like, I do like seeing Truex. I do like watching him, Jersey boy. But like, I don't have when like Gordon retired. That's when like I didn't have a dog in the fight anymore. If that makes any sense. And then they did the stage racing.
I would agree with that.
I still maintain, and I said this on this stream a lot. If they're going to do stage racing, they might as well make it like a Friday night event at a local short track, and just have heats, and then have a main at the end of the night. This way, if you get a short race, feeds the ADD generation, and you go from there. It kind of builds into itself, ad breaks and stuff. Just makes more sense to me. And then like the big races, you have your 600 mile or 500 mile enduro or anything like that. Brett, thank you for the 300 stars, buddy. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Brett.
He also says, I think there should be more destruction derbies. Go watch figure eight racing, and you'll get your fix for that. But
yes. That is like a destruction derby.
Coming up next on the screen, Greg's going to be entertaining for the next 6 minutes.
Oh. Well, that was abrupt.
I don't really do transitional material.
Hi. Apparently, neither do I. I'm Greg, son. What's up? So, let's hear what you guys have to say about what we kind of just watched. We have the NASCAR at Le Mans. One, how did it sound? Did it sound cool? Did you guys like it in contrast to the other sort of prototype cars and sort of typical Le Mans cars? Two, would you like to see a class of this car at Le Mans or other sports car racing? I think it would be pretty cool, but what do you guys think? And then lastly, what other cars would you like to see run in Le Mans that usually don't? And I would probably exclude open wheel racing from that conversation because they would never, ever, 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 ever allow that. So cool to do on a video game, not so cool in real life. So what of those three topics? Would love to hear your opinion on it. I would love to see, let's see, what other kinds of cars? I'd love to see like an old, or not an old, but like an American Trans Am series car kind of run in this because they do have a little bit more downforce. They have big wings and stuff, and they can be tuned to, sort of get into that same category as like a GTE. I'm not sure if when Chad gets back, we can talk about it, but I'm not sure if they run like an American Trans Am similarly anymore like that. But I think that would be kind of cool. I think it sounds great because you never hear just this big American V8 at Le Mans. So it's just like sort of a mind F to one, see the car, but also to kind of like close your eyes and you're like, oh man, yes, prototype. Ferrari. Oh, Porsche GT3 car. Blah 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 blah. Then you hear just this like, like this V8 just like screaming down the front stretch. That's cool. You never see that. You never hear it. I think that's pretty neat. I'm a big fan of that. Let's see what you guys. Mark, Le Mans needs a Ford Panther class. I think any racing series needs a Ford Panther class. That sounds just right up my alley. Pardon me. Let's see, Nicholas. They go crazy with the canards. Next time there will be one. There'll be one on the helmet, like Dune got loose with the crazy glue. Yes, canards on the helmet. That can only help. Pushrod V8, that is. Yes, we need more pushrod V8s in racing series, especially in France. Show them who's boss and make them surrender. And this is coming from a half French person. So let's now that Chad's gone, let's talk about him. No, I'm just kidding. What have you guys been up to car-wise in the last couple of weeks? We had a shorter stream last week. We're still pretty tired this week, but what have you guys got going on? I know Justin in the Shift Squad group, which is our supporter group. And if you're watching this now or later, you can go to our Facebook page and go to Shift Squad. I believe there's a button there, or you can search Shift Squad and go to the group Shift Squad. And that is basically our supporter group. It's $5 a month. It helps us to create more content for you guys. Basically those dues and fees also get you different access to us where we're going to do different drives throughout the year. We just went to Carlisle and had an awesome meetup at Doug's house where we watched a movie, which was Deadpool. I'd never seen it. That was awesome. And it's just a fun group to be in, and we're going to do some other stuff this year and next year, and hopefully more moving on into the coming years, it's really fun to connect with you guys. So if you're interested in that, go do it. I know most of you on stream watching right now are doing that anyway, but if you want to do it, cool, that's great. And then the whole spiel about that was Justin posted in there, he has a Grand National. So he's very much into the V8s and cool American cars, obviously. Not that the Grand National is a V8. Depends on what version of it I guess you had. Justin, please correct me in the comments. Which one had the Turbo 6? And was there ever a Grand National with a V8? I don't know. I keep forgetting. Someone told me once, but I do forget. So please tell me. I thought it was just the Turbo 6 because that was like the big thing. Mark says a whole LS swap class would be tits. I agree. That would be utterly fantastic at Le Mans. An LS swap, but specifically an LS swap class. Like, I would love to see the entirety of the GTE or GT3 or whatever hell class it is. It must be an LS swap on different chassis and see how the balance of power sort of works out. That would be very cool. No other prerequisites, just has to be LS swap. Yeah, I think that'd be that's really cool. I think that'd be really neat. Justin says, so I finally installed the wicked rare front air dam by Ken Bell. Saw that in the group, looks amazing. And when Chad gets back, maybe we can pull up a picture of it just to show everybody, because I think that would be really cool to show on stream. And Mark corrects me, Grand National and T-Type got the Turbo 6. That's what I thought. And then Justin clarifies, the T-Type Grand National were exclusive to the Turbo 6. The base Regal has a 307 or a V6. Got it. And that makes more sense now. I don't know, for me, if I'm going to buy something from that era, meaning like muscle car era into the more modern era, I would probably do something like probably a 69 Camaro SS, maybe a fastback Mustang, or like a 63 split window vet. So to me, those are like the big three for me. Like an Eleanor style kind of Mustang. That one, and then like the 69 Camaro SS. Or the split window vet, the 63 split window vet. Like those are my probably big three from that era. I never really got into the Grand Nationals. I think they're really cool. I think they're really nice, beautiful looking cars, but they just don't they don't give me the fizz, as James May kind of says. They don't fizz my berries, if you will. When Justin brings out his Grand National for us to see finally, I will supremely geek out about it. But I don't think I would be like, oh yeah, I'd love to drive away with this. But we'll see. Maybe I change my mind if I see it in person. And also, I'm sorry for all the sniffing. I'm sure it's getting real annoying to you guys, but we haven't had rain in New Jersey for what seems like 2 decades at this point, and all the pollen's still in the air, and my garage is littered with pollen, so I'm just sitting out here allergying away. So apologies there. All
right.
We had did you hear any of that conversation?
I heard the tail end of it.
Okay.
What was the question?
So I asked a question. What would be a class in Le Mans that you would like to see? Because obviously we have the NASCAR, and Mark gave the suggestion of an LS swap class. I was like, that is an excellent class. Could you imagine just seeing a Ferrari 488 drive by and it's just like just V8 craziness going nuts out the back end? That would be very hilarious. Huh. Or American LS V8, not because it already has a V8, but that would be very cool.
So does it have to be an already existing form of motorsport?
I mean, Mark pitched an LS swap class, so no.
I would honestly love to see a
Definitely
class.
Not.
And this was kind of what they were trying to do with the hypercar class, but it just turned into LMP1 for the modern era kind of a thing, a cost-capped version of LMP1. But I would really love to see a place where the Aston Martin Valkyrie could go up against the AMG 1, could go up against the Porsche 918, go up against... I'd love to see an actual hypercar class with these, kind of like a callback to the glory days of GT1.
Mm-hmm.
And
like the McLaren F1 and stuff?
Yeah, when that stuff raced, the McLaren Senna or even the P1 or whatever.
That'd be cool.
See these cars where, it's road car unlimited, right? And actually be okay, here's what the race cars can do, but what if we made a race car out of something that was already stupid fast? I always thought that would be cool.
We could call it the Gran Turismo class.
Yeah, right. I always thought I would love to see a faster GT class in general. I would love to see LMP2 go away. The reason it exists is the same reason GT3 exists. Is it gives gentlemen drivers a place to drive. And if you look at the entry list, a ton of LMP2 cars race at Le Mans. So I would love to see that go away in favor of some way of matching the cost. Because again, to make a road car into a race car is no cheap endeavor, as opposed to LMP2, which is 4 manufacturers make a chassis, which basically it's just become Oreca with the Gibson V8. So it's a shared chassis, it's a shared engine, so it's very, very affordable as motor racing goes. Nothing about motor racing is... I would love to see something along those lines. Just, again, to give a playground for I'd love to see a street car battle for overall wins again. And
that'd be
I don't
cool.
think we're ever going to see that in the current era where it's capped at I think a hypercar is $25 million on a season. I understand that's a lot of money, but it's nothing compared to the 9-figure budgets that they were playing with a few years ago. So I understand for sustainability of racing it doesn't exist, but one of the coolest things back in the day was the old GT1 series where the only reason the Maserati that's basically an Enzo but was designed solely to go racing I forget that, but that's the only reason that car exists
Oh, the MC12. Yeah.
like that was some crazy stuff back in the day because like it was let's see how fast GT cars can actually go. It priced itself right out of the equation, but such is the nature of things. So,
Yeah.
I think next up, we'll get to Doug's topic, which is pretty dang interesting, and you kind of touched on it a little bit with your
Yes.
Grand National.
Yes. You tee that up, and I shall be right back.
But what are and Doug, feel free to chime in with your suggestions because you are a bit of a you are our history book for a lot of this sort of I don't want to say obscure stuff because a lot of this stuff isn't obscure, but like you kind of catch my meaning. But like, what is a fast car from some place you didn't expect it? Effectively, is the ethos of the question, and like immediately my brain immediately went to, and I hope he had got a chance to hop on because he has one. But like the Neon SRT4, I know it's just an SRT4, so Lou, if you're in chat, don't kill me on that. But because nobody really expected a fast Neon, and and those things are very, very much the sort of import. It's very much a time capsule of the import scene at the time. Trust me, I get that it's not an import, but at any rate, the turbo gauge, the shifter, the loud blow off valve, the fact that it didn't have mufflers, it had resonators, but it didn't have mufflers, so it was loud. That's really, really cool. Doug goes in the post. He goes the 850R. I mean, if you want to go for any R Volvo, right? Nobody really thought Volvo and speed, and then these things come along, and are just absolutely insane. And they make, with the right exhaust, make one of the best noises in all of the automotive space. He also said, the Buick Grand National. Right. Again, nobody expected a Buick to be faster in a straight line, at least, than a Corvette of the era. Like, that's insanity, but yet they pulled it off. The Dodge Little Red Respect and the Rambler Rebel. Then he had to thought of the Omni GLHS, which is actually a Shelby, and GLHS go like hell. Nick goes, I love the SRT4, wish they still made them. I completely agree. I think, unfortunately, the space for that type of stuff has become, what's the word? The hot hatches have become super hatches. And the just plain old hot hatch, unless it's a Golf GTI, they don't really sell them. It's like Ford, and once the RS was out, the ST sort of took a dip. But I'd love to see something 250, 300-ish horsepower at maximum. That's just really, really fun to drive. Unfortunately, we live in a space where small cars are being phased out like they have the plague. Andrew loves the 850 T5R. I mean, again, there's just something special about fast Volvos.
Yeah. Fast Volvos are a great call for this topic. Jesse, what's up? Thanks for joining chat. Appreciate it, man. Good to see you.
What was the first DSM? Not the Eclipses, but it was like the Mitsubishi Starion, and then there was a Dodge counterpart to it.
Yeah. Oh man.
But like back in that era,
Dodge Duster.
Something. But back in that era, nobody was really thinking of a fast, small engine American car. Like that's it was. Jesse goes, I wish they still made the first gen Ford Probe GT Turbo. I think the Probe had a lot of untapped potential.
Yeah, agree.
Like for I mean, not for nothing, the Probe was going to replace the Mustang as the Mustang. Thank God it didn't, because then I would hate the Probe. But the Probes are always pretty cool little cars. The Conquest, that's what it was. Thank you, Justin.
Conquest. Yes.
Eagle Talon. Like Eagle. And we'll touch on, that brings up another suggestion from Steve. We'll get to after this. But Greg, when you think of fast cars where you don't expect them to be, what do you think?
Well, just fast cars from places that you would not particularly expect them. Like you had said, I was listening in when I went inside. Volvo is like probably the number one for that, because everyone basically just thinks Volvo is just a safety company. Yet they have all these sneaky models that are just super quick. The 850R, when you look at roll racing events, it's a front wheel drive only platform. But like once you get the thing going, man, 500 horsepower and a big turbo on that thing, and they'll keep up with anything really. And we're talking like anything, like Lambos and stuff like that, not modified Lambos, but like stock Lambos, stuff like that. It's pretty impressive what they can do. Then again, you strap a big turbo to anything in a roll racing event, and you're pretty much golden. Sort of a modern take on this topic is SUVs in general, because you never really kind of expect SUVs to be fast or interesting. And SUVs are the things that are, other than EVs that are, killing car enthusiasm because they're just these soul-sucking crossovers. But, some car manufacturers are really, maybe not so much right now, but like in the last decade, they really kind of said, let's make some fast SUVs. And there are a bunch of fast SUVs right now still. Range Rover Sport SVR has the same V8 engine as an F-Type. You also have the BMW X5M and the X3M, both of which are hugely impressive performers in a straight line. Both of them, I believe, are in the 12 and 11s at the strip, which is insane to think about for a 2-ton SUV. Jeep Cherokee Trackhawk, Dodge Durango Hellcat, obviously those are on the list.
The original, the Cyclone and Typhoon.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, chat's going nuts. Like GMC Cyclone, the Typhoon, pickup trucks and SUVs are just not an area of automotive culture or enthusiasm that you would think has fast bits to it. But if you're in the know, clearly like you guys are and us, there are a lot of them that are very, very fast and very quick. And some of them actually perform on track pretty well too. It's not just big lumbering huge SUVs. If you put suspension kits on these things, you do a little weight reduction, and you do some anti-roll bars and some proper tires and stuff like that, these things are very quick on the track as well. They'll keep up with sports cars and sometimes beat them. So that's an interesting area. Just thinking about it, not necessarily that I'm interested in that area, but it's just an area to me that no one would ever really kind of look to be like, oh yeah, fast cars, sports cars. Well, there's a lot of fast SUVs out there. EV.
Uh-oh. Chat, can you hear Greg?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, Greg was talking EV, so we chat muted you. I have no idea what happened.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm not sure what happened. It just said my microphone disconnected. And
yeah, it might have been.
My microphone didn't disconnect. It's literally attached to my camera.
I was poking around in settings and stuff like that.
That's so random.
But yeah, I mean,
I'm just trying to think of other areas where.
I mean, not for nothing.
Things are
and it
quick.
pains me to say this, is They put the same drive line in a PT Cruiser that they did the SRT for. Like, I hate the PT
That's
Cruiser.
so weird.
I
I
hate
love
it.
that, but it's so weird.
But they did that. They put golf. They basically put VW Beat, the new Beetle, not the one that like actually is kind of cool. They put a golf. They put that body on a, or they basically gave it GTI motor, suspension, the whole nine, in the new Beetle, and called it the Beetle
Yes.
Turbo. Still had a
Yeah,
vase in
that's
it,
right.
and but like that, like, but there's a lot of that stuff, like along the same lines as that, like Pocket Rocket sort of like, I mean, the Saturn Red line of cars, right? Like those were potent little cars for back in the day. I think actually the Saturn or the Cobalt variant or the Cavalier variant was one of the first front wheel drive cars to get into like the sixes or sevens or something like that.
Yeah.
Obviously not a street car anymore, but
No.
like little I keep going back to like little things like that. Like you kind of like but like or like but so like the AE Corolla, right? The Corolla was just a family car at the time, and then it became a
Yeah.
drift legend. You know, like
Right.
it's still, Corolla's still a family car now, but like imagine if they made something that was like, holy cow, this thing is dominating touring car racing or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good shout. I would also maybe put in that category wagons, because wagons actually still to this day have just a an aura around them of, oh, they're boring, or oh, they're just family cars. But you get the Polestar behind me, you got the new M3 wagon, you got Audi's been doing fast wagons since the beginning of time, like RS6, RS4. That sort of stuff is very cool. And
Buick
then
Roadmaster.
you also have, I was just going to say Buick Roadmaster with a big LS shoved in it. Hell yeah, that is cool. Like I'd love to go to the strip one day, see a Roadmaster with a big ass turbo or supercharged LS with Mickey Thompson's on the back throwing down a 9. That would be amazing. I would love to see that. That'd be cool.
No, I'm like, I think Doug mentioned something about the Rebel Ram. I don't even remember, but like a 7.5 second to 60 car back in the day. Like, there's been some fast Jeeps. Like, I mean,
57 Rebel did 0 to 60 in 7.5 seconds. For the 1950s or 60s, 0 to 60 in 7.5 seconds is absurd. Like, that is insanely quick for that time period. And Doug had also said, faster than everything tested by Motor Trend other than fuel-injected Vet. And the Rebel was a 4-door only. So, like, that's impressive. That's really cool to be able to have that.
I mean, the original Taurus show kind of fits, not the speed build, but like the ability to.
Yep.
What was it? Like we talked about the Cyclone and the Typhoon being, they're basically faster in a straight line than a Ferrari of the day.
Which that's crazy.
Even so, like it makes sense. It doesn't make sense. Then it made sense again. The SRT10 Ram, right? So like,
yep.
The V10 was originally a cast iron block truck engine that they sent off they didn't necessarily send it off, but Lamborghini basically taught them how to make the blocks, did the aluminum version of the block, and then it went in the Viper, and then they're like, well, we have these engine mounts that still work, let's put it back in the Ram. And like, like the super truck of like the late 90s, early 2000s really was when like super trucks really sort of, the F-150 Lightning, right? Like nobody was expecting a slam supercharged V8 F-150 step side to be able to accelerate like that. Like, We need to see a Maverick RS.
Maverick RS would be sweet. I would buy that.
I mean, it's reinvigorating the mini truck scene. Mark goes, Steve, I'm a sucker for the Solstice Sky, but in my opinion, the Sky is a better look between the two. That's because it was just a cut and paste of the Opel Speedster of the era. Those cars were actually Americanized versions of the Opel. I forget what it was called, but Open Top Opel. But I remember.
I think it was the Opel Speedster. I think you're right. I was thinking it was at the VX220, but that was like a mid-engine thing.
Yeah, it was a Lotus with the. That's a Vauxhall.
Vauxhall, that was it. Yep. But there was also an Opel. It was a Vauxhall and Opel. They each had one.
All right, so the
same thing as the Sky and the Solstice.
The
they were twins.
Was the Lotus, the rebodied Lotus.
Yeah. Oh, and Nicholas, to respond to your comment, I would love to see a souped-up version of a Toyota van, bagged and sounding mean. Go follow the Boosted Boys post haste. They have a Honda Odyssey that's K-swapped with a massive turbo pushing 1,000 horsepower. So yes, that is a thing that they have. Chad is giving me the 1 minute sign. I'm not sure why. We're all waiting with bated keyboards.
So we wanted a stupid fast minivan, right?
Yes. Okay. Oh, are you thinking of the Espace?
What's that?
Are you thinking of the Espace?
No.
The Renault?
No.
Oh, okay.
I am talking about ads. Yes. Nice. Trust me, chat. This is worth kind of the wait.
It's kind of worth the wait.
So.
Oh wait, sorry, really quick, Steve. To answer your question, what happened to the EV DeLorean? I think they're still in development. I don't think that they've killed that project yet. But yeah, and also yes, the Opel shared a lot to the American market for sure because they're all owned by GM, so they all cross pollinate.
Anywho, yes. I present to you.
Ooh, what's that?
That is a 2J swapped Honda Odyssey.
Oh my god! What on earth? That looks sick. Like, let's pause it for a second. Like, 2J swap aside, that looks the business. It looks really good. And most minivans that are slammed or whatever, they don't look good. They're kind of like, they just look awkward. That looks fantastic. I would drive the shit out of that car.
Yeah, so...
That's cool.
So, I see your K-swap and raise you a 2J swap.
Yes, but as we both know, K-swaps can also get to 1,000 horsepower pretty easily. So
without a doubt, like,
yeah.
I mean, not for nothing, that 6-cylinder. If you're doing that level of work, the J something or other, the 3.5 liter 6 that came in the Odysseys,
I don't know.
You can build those motors to make well over 1,000 too.
Yeah.
I think AMG did a van, but like, I don't think it was full AMG. BC did an Odyssey. BC did a.
So the AMG did the R63. Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah.
But my favorite all-time fast van was from Gran Turismo, and that's a real car they made. Was the Renault Espace. Or E-Space, as most everyone called it, because Renault literally took one of their F1 engines and shoved it in the back of a minivan, which is awesome. So yes, that is a thing that exists. It wasn't a production car or anything, but they made it, and it was in Gran Turismo, and it's a literal car that exists.
Well, that just goes back to
Minivan with
like
an F1 engine.
Hoonigan did the Indy-powered Honda Ridgeline for
Yep,
reasons.
just recently.
Yeah,
For SEMA this past year. That was cool.
that's really cool. But like, I could think of like 72 other vehicles I'd do that, put that in first.
I mean, yeah, but like
I mean, the fact that
the
it's
Ridgeline
it's a
got the
Ridgeline,
most
like,
attention.
It's I get the absurdity of it because internet, but like,
Yeah, it's an attention grabber.
how about that in a Honda Odyssey?
The
Indy Odyssey.
Indy Odyssey. I like that. That's good.
Back in the day, Chrysler turbocharged a Caravan.
Yeah, they had a turbocharged Caravan.
Let me put it to you this way. Did the Caravan single-handedly save Chrysler? Yes. Is it the reason we all have crossovers on the road now? Also, yes. So,
Also, yes.
because what happened was it kicked off the minivan craze, and then nobody wanted minivans. They wanted something that could do the job of a minivan, but not be a minivan. Insert the crossover.
Correct.
And here we are.
Yes. Correct. Exactly.
Andrew thought about getting a Ridgeline. They're really
They're
good.
good. They're good trucks, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much going to do 99.9% of the things you need. The average user needs a truck to do. Is it going to be able to haul and tow like a half-ton truck? No. Do people who own pickup trucks use that for that sort of stuff? Very rarely. And I
Also
mean that
no.
what I mean by that is that a lot of people who have pickup trucks get them because pickup trucks are cool and they're different and they're utilitarian, but yeah, the Ridgeline is very similar to the Maverick in that it's like basically a body. It's not a body on frame vehicle. It's as unibody as a truck shape can be. Doug goes, I'd take a minivan over a crossover any day. Brought one home once for myself. My wife didn't let me keep it very long. I think minivans are getting to the point of being retro cool. Did I upset you, Greg? No, you just went silent and had a look on your face.
No, sorry. I was looking at something on my other screen, and I'm like, what is happening? So, when we get off here, I have like 2 hours of work to do, and someone messaged about work, and they're like, "We need this, that, and the other thing done." I'm just like, when? It's 9:53. When on earth do you think you're getting this? Whatever.
Yay!
Whatever. I'm gonna do the one thing I can, give that to you, and then fuck off tomorrow because my kids are graduating. One of my kids is graduating preschool, so I've taken tomorrow off. Good luck. Don't care.
Hey, finally having kids is paying dividends.
That's right. Yes, the one time. I'm just kidding. If my kids are watching this future stream, I love you, and I really do.
Yeah, there's a very small chance that your kids watch all of these.
Zero chance.
If we split them up,
But in case they do,
if we split them up into 120 shorts, maybe you're in with a shot.
maybe.
Oh my god. I tow a whole ass travel trailer with my V60. Eat it trucks. You got that? Doug goes, hauled a half ton of scrap to the recycler today with my truck. She does real work. Nate Sam over on Facebook. Yeah, we are going to need cover letters on our TPS reports too.
Nice. What's up, Nate? Thanks for joining, man. Good to see you.
So,
yes, for my job, we're going to need many TPS report covers, and those covers can fuck right off.
if you could come in tomorrow, that would be great.
Tomorrow's Saturday, Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to have to ask you to come in on Sunday, too.
But let's see here. Steve.
Hell, Lumberg fucked her. Sorry. Office Space quotes.
Yeah, you lost me. But Steve brought up a video from Donut where they talked about all the car companies that were killed off in
Yes.
the recent century that we live in.
Yes. Great video.
Really good video. Basically Plymouth, Oldsmobile, Pontiac, Saturn, Hummer, Saab, Mercury, Scion. And really, the general gist of that video is that, so a lot of them were American companies, but you got to remember back in the day, like General Motors was called General Motors because it had acquired all of these different brands. Buick, Oldsmobile, Chevy, GMC, like they had sort of acquired all of these, and that's why it was General Motors. And once every single one of these car manufacturers basically became badge engineered, once Plymouth just became rebadged Chryslers and Dodges, once Oldsmobile was, rebodied versions of other cars, same with Mercury, Scion to an extent was that way. Saab was going down that path, but Saab's engineers couldn't allow it and started spending money recklessly, and Saab went away. Hummer was just an excuse to make SUVs on 2,500 platform, 3/4 ton chassis, which awesome.
Yep.
Doesn't play well in modern fuel regulations and stuff like that. But like,
nope.
When a brand has too many of the same car, it's competing against itself, and the overall brand, each individual brand suffers for it. So, General Motors kept Chevrolet, GMC, and just because the Chinese love it, Buick.
Yep.
That's really
literally the number one brand in all of China is Buick.
Only reason Buick continues to exist.
Correct. Which is funny because Buick outsells literally everything else in China by a considerable margin.
Yeah,
which is so weird, by the way.
It makes no sense to me, but like, I did read a study the other day that the differential between the old and the young is greatest in China based on demographics than any other country. So maybe Buick is just an old person's brand, and that translates oceans, continents, country.
It's very much possible.
But Doug goes, a purist would argue that the GM brands went away when they started sharing motors, which goes back a few decades. I completely don't necessarily, I don't disagree with that, but look, if you're GM and you're sitting here and you're going, all right, I got a 350, a 346, a 352, a 349, this other 350 that shares nothing with this one 350. Like, if you're going through and looking at, and we're spending how much money to develop each one of these things, like, eventually you're going to start to consolidate. And that kind of begins the brand engineering versus actual engineering thing. So, like, that part of the argument I get. But anyone who has anything, so you could spend half as much for one V8 in that 350, let's say, sphere, and develop it 4 times as much or 3 times as much or whatever. So, like, I get that, but, like, when legitimately there's nothing other than a body and a badge, and in some cases just a badge that differentiates the premium brand from the not so premium brand, one of the brands is going to die. And like, that's Mercury, right? Like, Mercury at the end was just rebadged Fords. So what exactly are you paying for when they could sit in a Ford with the premium package, sit in a Mercury, and notice no difference? There might be a difference, but like, when the end consumer cannot differentiate that difference, it's a problem because they're going to go for the cheaper option unless they are just a Mercuryophile.
And that makes sense for today's brands too. Like, the ones that do exist like that, especially in Japan, you look at Honda versus Acura. You look at Infiniti versus Nissan. You look at Lexus versus Toyota. Those are distinct brands with distinct designs, especially in the outside. I would argue that those brands and their more generic counterparts are the three biggest examples of differentiation of design on the exterior. Some of the interior bits are carried over, especially in Acuras, from the Honda stuff. Infiniti also has a lot of Nissan carryovers, but Lex and Toyota really, in the last, I'd say, 15 years, have had a big separation of design and interior material differences and qualities. Lexus is sort of known now as this sort of out of date interior brand with a very progressive exterior design, which is fine because the interiors are still gorgeous, but it's just a lot of them still need a refresh. Like the RC needs a refresh badly. They killed off the GS. The LS just got redesigned. They're now just starting to go through their SUV lineup and redesign things. For example, the GX is finally getting an infotainment system that isn't this big and from 2006. Like,
Well,
they sort of have older technology,
GX has been using
but have the
an engine
reliability.
like legitimately like 30 years old.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, GM has been kicking around the LS for how long? But like,
right.
in some very,
But still, but this is a good point to the argument because even though the Lexus is producing old stuff, it's still very reliable. It's differentiated from Toyota in many aspects, and it sort of has its own supply chain and its own design team and its own PR department, and it's owned by Toyota, obviously, and there are some things that are similar, but it's a very distinct delineation between a Toyota Camry and a Lexus IS, for example. Like there are big differences in those two cars, whereas well, correct, exactly, but it's not a one-to-one. Like we're talking about, GM in the 90s and 2000s. Like and Ford, same thing with Ford. Like a Taurus and a Mercury Sable. It's just they're not the same car with a different badge. They're two very distinct brands, and that's how these brands are going to survive long term. Is you can't have that sort of dilution and that cross pollination, and that is the crux of like why all these brands have sort of died off, is because they just became this sort of conglomeration of like, oh well, it's just the same thing 4 times over.
Right. I mean, just think about it. Right, back in the day, you could get a Chevy Cobalt, Pontiac G5, a Saturn, all of which were the same freaking car.
Right. Exactly.
But to your point with Lexus, it's like you can sit in a Lexus and just feel like it's got Toyota guts. Right? They share engines. They share a lot of stuff. But you could just sit down, and the second you sit in that chair, you feel the car, the tactile sensation. You are in an upscale version. You are in an upscale vehicle, full stop. Right. It's not an upscale version of a Toyota. It's just upscale. And same thing, similar. I mean, Acura was falling into the trap of being fancy Honda. Which they've done a great job with. Acura is a great brand. But I think their more modern stuff sort of, again, you sit down and you feel, okay, I can justify pinching the top of the H and paying a little bit more and buying this over, like, say you're looking at an MDX or a Pilot. You're like, okay, I can get the MDX because I'm seeing value for the money. And I honestly, I think I don't think we're done with, because even Toyota, Scion was on that list, right? And basically they built an entire brand around the Corolla. That's really all it was. Is that all these cars?
You can also argue that the TC was the next generation Celica. Like there's a good argument to be made about that too. So I think that was Toyota's sort of attempt at let's make all the cars that we wanted to make and just shove them in this sub brand. Let's be quirky.
Right, but I mean, it was all just exciting bodywork on the best-selling car that has ever existed.
Right.
Mark goes in chat. Pontiac was doomed as soon as they slapped the Arrowhead on a minivan. I agree. Then also said, we build excitement. Well, minivans can be exciting if you
If they have a 2J swap.
Well, I didn't mean from a driving perspective. They got a lot of room. I'll let you guys in your imagination fill in that particular blank.
Yes, sleeping in the back. That's what Chad means.
So much room for activities. Like basket weaving, embroidery.
Right. Intercourse. What?
Yes, you could do that in Intercourse, Pennsylvania. Good call, Greg.
That's right. That's right.
Andrew,
which is a real place, by the way.
Andrew goes, I've seen the next gen Toyota Camry. I like it. I think it looks sleek and nice. The Camry's come a long way from being just a blob.
Yeah.
I think they are
really has.
interesting. They look good. They have a sense of aggression to them. They're sporty enough. Would I look to a Camry if I wanted a mid or full size sports sedan? No. But
yeah,
they have to give something that's mildly exciting for these cars and give. So how do you differentiate a RAV4 from a Camry? Right? Like if a family man such as Greg walks into your dealership and he goes, I have 2 kids, a wife, all their stuff. I'm looking between these 2 cars. How do you differentiate the Camry, the car, from the RAV4, the crossover? And the simple thing is you got to make the car feel more fun. Whether or not people are going to drive it in that sense. And fun can take many things, from a back road thing to a aesthetics to a like just the wheels in general will go a long way into making a car look sporty. And all of that, because again, lower down, you're sacrificing some utility for some fun. Because not for nothing, if the family man that Greg is goes in, says, I have this, this, and this is my requirements, he's going to walk out with the crossover 9.5 times out of 10. And that's what we're seeing in the sales numbers across the board. So,
yeah.
For cars to survive, they have to have that. They have to have an it factor that a crossover can't match. And where crossovers are sort of lacking is in the aesthetic, in my opinion, because they all kind of look similar. There's only so many variations of 5-door hatchback effectively you can do.
Right.
And if you look at these things inside, I think it would be if I figure out how to do it, I think it'd be a hilariously fun game to just name the crossover just on side profile alone, because I don't think we get a lot correct.
No, I agree. Most there's actually an interesting article out there. I got to find it again and I'll share it with you guys, but there's somewhat of a loophole out there that makes every crossover seem very similar to the other, and it has to do with safety regulations, and it has to do with drivability and aerodynamics, and I forget what it is. But
if you have the same, if you ask 10 people a question and you give them a set of parameters they have to operate within, the end result is going to be broadly similar. It has to have this much,
right.
The headlights have to be this high. The crumple zones have to be this big. You have to have this much interior space while only having this much of an exterior footprint. And you have to be fuel efficient and aerodynamic. Well, the air isn't like, well, that's a Toyota badge, so I'm going to flow differently. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, given the same set of parameters, they're running it through basically the same basic of a similar version of a software that spits out a shape. And then they just got to make it. Look, that's why I honestly think the grills have become so predominant, is that the only way you get to differentiate a Lexus from an Acura, from a this, from a that, is to put the biggest stonking grill you can on it. And so it's immediately identifiable. Because again, if you just side profile, these things all look the same.
Yeah, no, you're right. I agree.
Greg agrees, guys. Greg agrees.
I do agree. I think that's a good point. Like, you have to differentiate it somehow, and with interesting design cues is sort of the way to do that. The best example of that is Lexus. Like, the new like Camrys, ever since they came out with the Predator grille on the Lexus side, have been pretty reserved up until this most recent generation. And Lexus has always been known for that sort of like hourglass sort of Predator grille, right? And I'm one of the few, I think, that have liked it from the start. I didn't like it maybe the first year, and then the second year, I'm like, man, that actually looks pretty good, especially in certain designs. So, that is a huge differentiating feature from like a Lexus to a Toyota. And I think Nicholas hit a very interesting point. New Camrys look better than new WRXs,
100%.
and I agree
100%.
with that. Fantastic amount of agreement there. New Camrys look utterly luxurious and well designed compared to the new WRXs. The new WRXs are basically just a fancy Impreza Civic with a big shelf in the back and a scoop on the hood. That's it. They are ugly. They are lazily designed, and quite frankly, the new WRX has made me give up on Subaru almost as a brand entirely, and that sucks to say because Subaru is a really cool enthusiast brand overall over the years. But at this point I've sort of given up on them. The only Subarus I would ever own are older WRXs or STIs, ideally a 90s GC8 version. Like other than that, oh yeah, and the greatest vehicle ever conceived by mankind, the Subaru Baja. Yes,
Oh, without a doubt. Like, Subaru's in that weird spot. They got to sell vehicles because they're a small brand compared to everyone else, right? And they were the all-wheel drive guys. That's how they rose to prominence. And now everyone has an all-wheel drive system that is every bit as good, in some cases better, from an overall chassis dynamic standpoint. So how do they differentiate? And, like, not for nothing, being ridiculously stubborn and sticking to the boxer layout or the flat layout, I think is a detriment to Subaru because they're expensive to maintain because the engine's like, ask anyone who owns a Subaru. Go change your spark plugs and watch them shat themselves. Like, when you have to start removing wheels to do spark plugs, like, let's rethink this. Hi, whoever just walked through Greg's garage.
That would be my mother-in-law.
Gotcha. So, like,
I will be right back.
Like, that's the thing. Like, Subaru. Okay, there we go. Here's the thing with Subaru, right? They're trying to compete in a space, but these other cars, they might cost the same, but the cost of ownership. And I'm not talking about the luxury marks because when you get into Lexus, BMW, all these, you start paying luxury car tax. We're literally the same componentry. But, and I hope your car's finished this week too, Andrew. But again, when you have a straight inline four-cylinder that's right here, and you just do the spark plugs and the coils, and they're right there in front of you, whether you're a master tech or not, that's going to take less time, and it's less time. Like, I don't mean to harp on it, but like, so Subaru's, they're very obviously like trying to get the most out of every platform they have, which is why the new WRX is effectively a squatted crossover, which is a shame because like Subaru was sort of that last old school all-wheel drive rally inspired brand, or at least the WRX and STI were. And it's kind of a shame because like when you just start throwing them into a sea of other crossovers and stuff like that, it's like, a lot of their stuff feels outdated. You sit in a Honda, a Toyota, and then you sit in a Subaru, and the Subaru feels the oldest. Are they good cars? Are they reliable cars? Yeah. But modern cars are inherently reliable. And what I mean by that is like 90% of any car's issues is going to be in the electronics. I forget the exact statistic, but like the overwhelming majority of complaints on vehicles in the last 10 years or so, the time frame I might not have right, has been like user experience or user interface related issues. Like when, like, who was it? I want to say Honda went to purely touchscreen or haptic feedback buttons. They got crucified for that. And they eventually went back to buttons. Volkswagen's falling into that same trap with their more recent offerings. So, like, it's basically the formula is simple. Decent 4-cylinder engine, whether or not you boost it or not is up to you. And have an interior that people like sitting in. And Subarus are good enough. They're just not as good. And that's why I worry for the brand. I mean, the good thing is, Toyota has 20% of Fuji Heavy Industries, Greg?
25.
So they have
it's in the low 20s.
So they have a little bit of help there, but like when you lose your identity, which I think Subaru has, that is tough. Like, should Mitsubishi continuing to make a version of the Evo save Mitsubishi?
Oh, it's a lot less than that actually. Toyota stakes an 8.7% stake in Fuji Heavy Industries, currently known as Subaru, after General Motors.
Wait, GM has stake in Fuji?
Apparently, and this is from Reuters. So hang on, hold up.
Rabbit hole discovered.
Oh wait, this is an excellent example of why. I hate saying this because I hate people that say do your own research and then they come up with the dumbest shit ever. But for car stuff, you can do your own research and a lot of it will come up pretty easily. But the first thing you search on Google, right? Toyota ownership percentage of Fuji Heavy Industries. Very specific search. Easy, long tail keyword result. The first thing that comes up that's highlighted on Google, 8.7%. Toyota takes an 8.7% stake in Fuji Heavy Industries. You click into the Reuters article, October 2005 is when that highlighted paragraph is from. And I'm like, well, that's a long fucking time ago. And then the next thing says April 2008, Toyota increases its stake in FHI to 16.5%. So after that, they don't have anything. So this is why you kind of gotta like poke around and not just take things at face value sometimes. Let's see. 5 days ago, here we go. Toyota raises stake in Fuji Heavy to almost 17%.
There we go.
There you have it.
That took more than it should have.
What a freaking annoyance. Bothers the living crap out of
me. You don't say. But
good God.
But like
as a medical researcher by trade, like I'm a writer, but I do medical research as like that's the normal thing. It bothers the crap out of me when you Google something and the first thing that comes up is like, oh yes, here's your fact, and then you click on it, and it's like, oh yeah, by the way, that's almost 20 years old. Cool. Thanks, Google. Go fuck yourself. So obnoxious. So obnoxious.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
Thinking about trading the 500 in it for it. I'm not sure yet. I think you're referencing a 2010 XC60. Great.
He has a Ford 500 as well. That's what he's referencing.
Right, but trading it in for
the 2010 XC60.
I would love to have a RAV4 and a Lexus RX. I mean, really difficult to go wrong with either of those. From a strict
full transparency, the RAV4 or the RX are going to be better cars.
There you have it.
The XC60 is fine, but like The RAV4 and the RX are just more reliable overall, and the 3.2s are fine. They're okay, but they're not great. And yeah, I mean, you're just getting a better product with the Toyota RAV4, the Lexus RX, quite frankly.
Steve over on YouTube. Way to keep the YouTube chat active over there, Steve. Love you. He goes, I used to love Subarus after my last Subaru blew up at 107,000 miles. After doing all the Subi maintenance, I've been turned off. My Subaru before that lasted over 430. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, would Subaru continue to be Subaru if they decided to have, like, an inline 4 and a V6 as opposed to an H4 or an H6? I don't think it matters at this point, man. Like, I understand. Like, what's the reason for keeping the Boxer? Like, it's not actually a Boxer, but like the horizontally opposed 4-cylinder and stuff. It was for the Imprezas or the rally car or the WRX or the STI. When you remove that from the equation, what's the point? I don't know. I love old Subarus. I ceased liking Subaru, and Greg and I disagree on this, but like I ceased liking Subaru when they did the hatch. Like that was the Subarus prior to that. But when they started doing that, I was like, then every WRX or STI after that, I just haven't been able to get into. You know. But that's just me. Like that's all subjective. Like I have a friend of mine who's looking at a Crosstrek. Like wouldn't steer him away from it, you know. But I don't know, man. It's
just different. Like
man, because like I don't see how they they can maintain or increase market share being what they are now. You know, the price that they cost at the prices that they command for what you get plus maintenance on them. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I hate to say it because I love Subaru, like as a brand and what they used to represent. I think they might be the next Mitsubishi, if I'm being perfectly honest.
No, they're on that trend. Actually, I just looked at their sales figures since 2013. So basically the last decade. This is in the hundreds of thousands. So in 2013, 724, 825, 911, 958, then a million 65,000, 1,067,000, then just over a million, 1,034,000, 860, 734. So, and I understand that maybe the pandemic and supply chain has a lot to do with that. However, I don't know. I agree with you. I don't think that Subaru is sort of built for the long term. I think maybe in the next 20, 30 years, we may see him go away.
And this isn't me like saying they got rid of the performance car, therefore they're doomed. It's like Corvette or GM getting rid of the Corvette or something like that, right? It's not that. It's that, like, I understand what like Nicholas is saying, balance, training and balance and weight. I get that, but on the flip side, does it actually matter in a crossover if you have a slightly lower CG? It doesn't seem to matter for literally every other car manufacturer out there. That's number one. And not for nothing. Yes, the CG is lower, but the engine hangs out in front of the front axle. So you getting better balance as far as CG is concerned, but where your center of mass is, as far as the chassis itself, it's way front heavy. You know, because you have the transmission over the top, the axle, and then the engine out in front. Regardless, look, do I want the burble of a Subaru to go away? No. It's just, you need to be like a Porsche to be that ridiculously stubborn about a certain component of your vehicle, which, let's face it, a V6 or an H6 isn't too different from a V6, right? A V6, it's just 180 degrees as opposed to like a 90-degree V angle. However, a H4 compared to an inline 4 is significantly more complicated to make because you need two camshafts. You have to have exhaust routing that is a little bit more complicated. You have to have, a different. It's just that's why you don't see V4s, right? A V4 is an inherently balanced design because of the way the firing order works and everything on it, which is why Porsche actually put it in the 919 race car because of just how smooth they can be. But it's inherently a complicated design for what is, at the end of the day, a 4-cylinder. So, like, it's just... Look, one of my dream builds is to do a 22B tribute build. I think that would be an absolute riot of a car to have and drive. But I don't know. I think Subaru's kind of lost its way in the quest for sales, and we'll see. I wish them the best because I don't want to see another manufacturer die.
Yeah, agree. We need more diversity of manufacturers to keep car enthusiasm alive.
Mm-hmm. And
the more we have, the better.
What about if Subaru went mid-engine, like maybe with the new BRZ or WRX moving forward? I would think that would be an amazing vehicle. However, the whole reason the BRZ and the GT86 exist is that neither company wanted to do it on their own, so they came together to spread costs aside. Are they going to want to develop and I'm not trying to be sour grapes or anything like that. I'm just trying to live in like some semblance of reality. That would basically be an affordable Cayman or an affordable Boxster or a new take on the MR2, which I think would be epic. It's just, again, mid-engine adds complication, which adds... I would much rather see them put a small turbo on the BRZ before I see them move the engine. Because if you were able to get the BRZ to knock on the door of 300 horsepower, now you have something that is it's already a fun car to drive. Now you have something that's insane. But again, turbos add complexity and cost, and now all of a sudden it becomes a measuring contest, and the car that was affordable is now priced out of the affordability for the market it was going for. And then it doesn't have a nice enough interior for people our age to want to get inside of one and own it day to day.
Yeah.
Steve over on YouTube goes, the FA 2.4 Boxer engine that Toyota designed for Subaru is a lot more reliable to hold power.
Well, first off, Toyota did not design that for Subaru. Subaru designed that. That's basically the exact engine ripped out of the Ascent without the turbo. That's what that engine is. The other thing is those engines are actually blowing up on track because people are racing them on track, which is what people want to do with BRZs and 86s because they're lightweight, fun, cheap, affordable sports cars. Right. They're being marketed as cheap, affordable sports cars and that you should track them. And people are blowing them up. Not a lot of them, but people are blowing them up on track. There is video evidence of this happening. Unmodded examples, just normal examples, and unmodded engine examples. They have suspension upgrades and whatever, but unmodded engine examples, and they are blowing up, and that's a problem, especially when you're marketing a car as an affordable sports car that you should track.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the next gen, I don't know what the difference in cost for the motors is. I got to imagine that little 3-cylinder is a spicy meatball.
Sorry, be right back. I gotta let my wife in the house. The door's locked.
Oh boy. But I would love to see the rumors come true and have that 3-cylinder out of the GR Corolla plopped into a GT86 BRZ. I think that would... I mean, that's an exciting little engine that is eminently moddable, and so far has barring some sort of like electrical issue or like some cheaping out in internals, and what I mean by that is like springs, retainers in the head, or getting in trouble with like a third party manufacturer or something like that. All you have to do is look at the cylinder walls on those little 3 cylinders. Just see how girthy they are and how Toyota went back to their golden age of over-engineering the ever-living crap out of this engine. So they're going to be strong, reliable. They're maybe a little pricey, so if it drives the price up too much, obviously it's not something I would want to see because, again, affordable. What kills affordable sports cars is like all of us on the internet screaming, it needs more power. And then they give us more power, and then people can't afford them anymore. Like, that's the thing that kills us.
I've been screaming for more power in the FRS, or the B. I guess you could say the FRS, the BRZ, the FRS, the 86, whatever the hell you want to call it.
First ever press car.
The Toyo Baru twins. I've been screaming for more power in that car since the beginning. However, I'm not one of the guys that's screaming like, man, this needs an LS. Like, it doesn't. It needs, what that car needs is 250 horsepower and 240 foot-pounds of torque. That is it. It is light enough that it is Lotus fun. I've driven many of them with different packages. I've never driven a turbocharged one. I've never driven a supercharged one. I've never driven one with a swap. But every single time I come out of that car, I'm like, man, if this car just had 50 more horsepower, it would be so much better. And I don't think 250 horsepower is that much of a price increase ask to make that car what it always should have been, an upgraded Miata. It should not be fighting against the Miata. It should be at one class above the Miata, between the Miata and a Boxster. That's what it should be. And honestly, 250 horsepower will solve that problem.
I think that car, its sole market, the sole reason for its success was that it was a Miata and I'm not trying to be sexist here, but we all know the Miata has gotten an unfair reputation as being something of a chick car. Whether it is or it isn't, right. I'm not here to debate that.
It's always been considered a hairdresser's car, if you will. That's just the stigma that it brings.
Perception. And that the BRZ, the Toyo Baru twins.
It's not, by the way. It's really fun.
But
that's not what the public perceives it as.
And that the Toyo Baru twins were, hey, same thing, but with balls.
Right. It's the men's Miata, which is hilarious because Miatas can sometimes walk those cars depending on the driver. But again, this is the enthusiast debate versus the general public.
Until they went to the 2.4, Miatas were beating them.
Yes, exactly. Right, and that's the point because the Miata is just a better engineered car.
Right. Well, there's only one cook in that kitchen.
That's the whole thing. Yes.
Yeah. Here's. I think you hit the head. I mean, which one of all these things, arguably the best of the small, lightweight, modern-ish sports cars, the S2K had a screaming engine that made about 250 horsepower. In 2-liter trim, it went to 9,000 and beyond. When they stroked it out to get a little more torque, it was like 8,800. 100 RPM redline, which is a lot still, by the way.
Right.
But that's the engine everybody's been wanting in one of these things since then. And I get it. When you make an engine like that, it costs a little bit more. But I don't know. Real quick, just get in the chat, and then we'll be wrapping up in a little bit here.
Yes, I still have 2 hours of work to do.
LG, as it were. Andrew goes, the new WRX, the new WRXs and STIs are ugly looking. Yes.
Well, they don't have a new STI, but
which is good for
because STI said we're going to wait till the EV market pans out, which makes me even lose more respect for Subaru and STI. But yes, the new WRXs are ugly as sin.
Greg, your mic is doing something crazy.
It is?
Yeah, it's doing the clicking thing. Now that he's gone, folks. Wait.
Is it better?
Yes. All right, and we're leaving. Good night, guys.
Oh my god, man. Just technical difficulties. Anyway.
And then real quick, Mark goes, Miatas are literally marketed to women. Nothing bad about that. Incidentally, I got mad for Miatas. Look, Miata got a bad rap just because it was small. It had rounded edges. Like, so when you go back and you look at the NA Miata, it has a soft appearance. And again, I'm not trying to generalize in any way, shape, or form, but those softer lines, the convertible, the not a lot of power, it became something of a Sweet 16 present. Greg sounded like he was talking through fireworks. Absolutely.
That actually sounds pretty badass. I want to go back to that.
I don't. My ears hurt. That's why like the new Miata actually looks pretty damn good.
Yeah.
It's again,
sure does.
So we'll see. I mean, it's. I wish all three would like kind of come together. Toyota and Subaru do blah, and then someone's like, "Hey, we got these extra K motors lying around." All would be solved.
Yeah, that would be pretty fantastic. I got to be honest. I agree with that. Oh, here's a 250 horsepower K motor. Yes, very much yes.
Nicholas is sleep deprived. Mark goes, the name Miata is literally chosen as a feminine allure sort of thing. There's a whole science behind car names in relation to their intended period market. I don't know. You went space period market, so I figured you wanted me to say that out loud, Mark. Of course there is. Why do you think look at all like American muscle cars, right? Like Charger, Challenger, Barracuda, Mustang, Camaro. Like they all have they're not even trying to hide the amount of testosterone dripping from those names. Viper, Cobra. The list goes on and on. Like
Thunder Cougar, Falconbird.
Exactly. So but
right? But it is. They're named aptly for their audience.
Exactly. At any rate, Doug, they're called the MX-5. Yes.
Shut up, European. Get out of here.
Don't you have some scrap metal to haul?
You're also correct.
Which is the best kind of correct.
You are technically correct. The best kind of correct. Name that Futurama episode.
It's the bureaucrat one.
Yeah, one of the best ones.
That's an
awesome.
Underrated, excellent show.
It really is. I love that show. And on that note,
guys,
goodbye.
Thank you so much for watching. We will catch you next week. We will have at least 2 videos this week, so stay tuned to the main to the Shifting Lanes Garage YouTube channel. Thank you, Mark. For those, you feature in one of them, chat, so you're definitely not going to want to miss it.
That's right.
Other than that, Greg will have some content coming very, very soon with the Polestar. We're going to be starting cranking out vlogs and stuff again.
Finally.
Nicholas, thank you for the subscription, buddy. Appreciate you. But
thank you, dude.
For this one, guys, thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.